places my body hadn't sold. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. I found myself and find out glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign. Giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, where we explore the female characters in sci-fi television shows, movies, books, game, art, anywhere female characters are depicted. If you are new to our channel, we want to welcome you. We ask to hit that subscribe and notification bell so you are aware when our next shows are coming up, and it really will help our channel. If you want to support our channel, check out our new website that is scrolling at the bottom of the page. It'll have how to contact us, send us emails, as well as our merch store will be on there. I am your host, Nita, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Sarah, the Queen of Darkness. And we have two special guests tonight, returning guest and champion, Miranda, and one of my favorite indie authors. So I am fangirling right now, guys. Eric Williamson. So we're going to start, ladies first. Miranda, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. It's
wonderful.
It's been a great week, and I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent. And Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in here.
And Eric, tell us what's going on. I know you have a little bit of an announcement to make.
Well, hello, Nita and Miranda and Sarah, the Queen of Darkness. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Williamson. I'm a writer, poet, and I'm a creator who's steeped in the worlds of sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. And I've got some exciting news I thought I would offer up to Nita and the Sci-Fi Queens viewers. At some point during the course of this show, we will be doing a giveaway, either to someone in the chat, someone that makes themselves a shining exemplar of why they are truly dedicated to the Sci-Fi Queens channel, by giving them not only a copy of my comic book Prismatic, but as you can see, this is a blank cover, so I'm going to hand draw and color a character, hero, scene of their choosing on the cover and send it to them. If they're in the US, preferably, because, shipping internationally, we'll get this into your hands. So please stay tuned throughout the entire show.
Yes, that is wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got Dev in the comments. How you doing, buddy? Okay, so we're gonna hop right in because we have got the spooky side of sci-fi, and this is why Eric Williamson is here, because he is king of spooky sci-fi. Okay, guys, if you have not read his comics, you need to. You need a good scare, read his comics for sure. So we're gonna hop right in here and start talking about the classics. Okay, we can't talk about sci-fi and scary without a good black and white character. So we're gonna start with Eric. Eric, talk to me about the original Frankenstein. What you thought about it when you first saw him and how it inspires you.
I mean, I've always been a fan of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And so, seeing Frankenstein in pictures was always really awesome, and its many incarnations over the years. I guess what I've always really liked about Frankenstein is that it's not really about the monster. It's kind of one of those weird stories that's it's really about sort of the arrogance of mankind. And I like the way that it really, at its core, it really is a sci-fi story. It taps into like like our own scientific hubris and the ethics behind creation. And I've always found some of those types of themes very interesting. In fact, they manage to weave themselves, not to be a self-plug, but they actually weave themselves into Prismatic, because there's a particularly a story that is a very much a Frankenstein style story. And it isn't necessarily, Dr. Frankenstein's monster sort of embodies so many of the issues that we deal with regards to like societal rejection and abandonment and our own like narcissistic human pride. And I've always loved those themes in this horror story.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that I agree with you there. It's definitely a science fiction story. But it's not about Frankenstein, but about the hubris of his creator. Absolutely. Miranda, how about you? What do you think of the original Frankenstein, even talking about the new ones coming up?
I mean, it's a completely iconic performance by Boris Karloff,
Yes.
and just set the stage for every Frankenstein piece that came after it. And that's the thing that I love most about Frankenstein's monster is what the character has inspired, and all of the follow-ups, like Bride of Frankenstein, and how it just captured the imagination of so many different people, and it's gone so many different places, but there's still these core elements that are tied back to that original performance. And like that's what I love most about the character Frankenstein's monster itself.
Absolutely. How about you, Sarah? Talk to me about
Well,
Frankenstein.
well, what I love about this story, and back to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, like the original and the way she wrote it and everything. And Eric's right that it's more about the hubris of man. And I think the evolution that we as people get from watching this and the different incarnations of Frankenstein and his monster is that you learn that the monster isn't the monster, that it's Frankenstein, the scientist,
Hmm.
who is the monster,
Absolutely.
and that people are ugly, and this creation just wants to be. And why do people have to be, just how humans are, I guess. And that's, to me, watching it, watching them when I was a kid, it's like, oh wow, you made this monster. And then, as I've grown, and as the stories have evolved, I have learned that he's just a creature,
Yes.
just like my dog's a dog and he's an idiot. They have to be taught, they have to learn, they have to grow.
Yeah.
But the scientist is the monster,
Yeah.
because he had that ego to, like, well, I'm gonna make a human and we're gonna do this. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's scary.
Hmm. I
Well,
love this
oh,
because I think that this is one of the, as far back as I can remember, one of the original kind of scary movies that were put out. And watching it today is not frightening because I think that, the fear factor has evolved and grown in movies, but this was definitely frightening for the time, and I
Hmm.
love that mentality, that caringness, because he wasn't a monster in the sense that he wasn't evil, he wasn't bad, he was actually quite kind. He was just a victim of his own circumstances, that he was forced into this environment by someone who decided that he wanted to be a god and create life, and he wanted to do this. And I love how he was actually in some way more human than his creator was.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, I think what's really fascinating about this picture you selected is because Frankenstein is so iconoclastic in sort of just our cultural zeitgeist, right? Doesn't matter what culture you come from, you see this picture, Frankenstein,
Absolutely.
monster. And you think of this monster, this sort of mute brute, like, "Roar," you know, But what's really interesting from a literary standpoint is the fact that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein monster was this sympathetic and like super articulate monster. And it was, she really captured this essence of
Yes.
humanity, and the monster had this like loneliness quality about it.
Yes.
And it was just struggling in its own like quest for knowledge, and
Yes.
sort of the moral cost that was associated with it just trying to understand its place in the world. And that contrast between sort of that brutish Frankenstein and this sympathetic creature is really sort of symbolic to
Yes.
a lot of like the issues we're dealing with societally right now, and just the shifting changes in what calls us to be afraid
Oh,
then
absolutely.
versus now.
And you see the gentleness even when he deals with the Bride of Frankenstein, which is why I chose this, because he's got his bride there, and 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 he, you can see that he tries to be gentle with her, and he tries to understand her and say, "Hey, I've been there. Let me help you get to where I'm at now." And I think that that's really something special about Frankenstein. And it really goes to say that just because something is scary doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Like some characters, yeah, they're just bad, but some characters are scary, but not necessarily evil in their nature. You know, but we're gonna go on to our next
We have a comment.
character.
We have a
Oh,
comment, Nita.
absolutely. Put that one up. It says,
Um,
"You want to read it?
it,
Go ahead."
yeah, it just struck me because of the points you all have made that in the book, the monster is like an abandoned child, like a child without parents. His
Yes.
life turns tragic when his father abandons him, and that's what I was gonna say too, that the portrayal of Frank the monster in Penny Dreadful was very close to the book. He was very articulate.
Yes.
Um, very, loved the arts, and like even remembered some of his old life, and actually ended up just wandering off on his, just leaving because and he was very childlike at first, but that through the show he evolves, but then he leaves to just go wander the earth on his own because there's nobody like him. And even they made him a bride, but she didn't want anything to do with him because she didn't know him. Just because she's made for him doesn't mean that it's like an arranged marriage. Just because it's supposed to be doesn't mean it's going to work out. And I really appreciate this story.
Oh, absolutely. It has so many nuances. I think that that's what makes this story so beautiful and complex, because it has all these little nuances that that we can see developing, you know, in his storyline and his interactions. Um, but yeah, let's go on to our next character. Now, of course, we had to go there. How can we
Hmm.
talk about Sci-Fi Scary and not talk about Star Trek's the original series Gorn versus Star Trek Strange New Worlds Gorn? These are really different. And let me
Yes.
point out that Strange New Worlds Gorn, that's a baby Gorn. So I can't wait to see them in an episode where they show you a full grown Gorn. Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, talk to me about the Gorns.
Well, I mean, the original Gorn is like, okay, well, it's a monster, but I mean, it was very hokey. I mean, it was for the time, but it was very, like
Exactly.
monster movie hokey. Like, oh my god! And they're supposed to be the big bad, and it's like, really? But like the new Gorn scare the doo doo out of me. I
Ooh,
mean,
yeah.
they are, they, and just the way that they work and the way that they breed, and like the things that we've learned about how they are as a culture, I guess. Which, I mean, I never thought about that before, but like, I mean, that's what it is. And the way that they function, it's just it's scary. It's
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
scary.
definitely. Eric, talk to me about these different um the different images of the same alien.
I mean, you've got to love the man in the rubber suit. I mean,
Yes,
it's
you
just
do.
awesome. It's just iconic. I love it. I mean, as soon as you pulled the image up, it just made me guffaw out loud. Just, I mean, I just remember being a kid and seeing, oh, the shambling. But yet, when I tap into sort of my youth and remember that, I think I thought at the time that it was pretty creepy. Just because time is everything, and it was relevant to the particular context of seeing it back in the day, right? And just, I always thought those sort of saurian reptiles were. Do you remember like Land of the Living? I think that was called,
Yes.
with those reptiles, with the big
Yes, I used to
weird
love
shape.
those.
I can't remember if that's the name of the show or not, but I always thought those guys were really scary too when I was a kid. But decades removed, New Worlds brought out Strange New Worlds brought out the Gorn in this sort of like in a fashion that I really really dig, just blending sci-fi with these elements of body horror, which is
Yes.
Oh,
like
yeah.
really resonant in a lot of my writing. So I love just that the visceral ferocity.
Yeah.
And they have that weird sort of like reproduction cycle that they kind of allude to, which is kind of cool and strange. And I also like the fact that, like you said, Nita, this is the baby Gorn, right? So like
Mhm.
we haven't even seen the full reveal yet, and they've also subtly sort of done that in the filming, where there's a layer of suspense that's sort of woven in, because they kind of always keep them just into the shadows, or they're just darting past. You
Yeah.
don't really get like the full-on in-your-face raw monster. It's
Yeah.
they're always just kind of coming at you, or they're hidden at, and I love that, because it kind of reminds me of Lovecraft kind of said, like, the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And with the Gorn, you don't really know, and that unknowingness makes them extra
Oh yeah.
mercifully good.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
one of the elements that they included in Strange New Worlds Gorn that kind of made this Gorn even scarier, it's the saliva. When
Oh
they
yeah.
it's something
It's
about saliva coming out of monsters that's terrifying.
I think it's very reminiscent of one of the ones we're gonna do later, the xenomorph. It has that kind of
Yes,
that same xenomorph
Mhm.
feel to it, that the
exactly.
dripping, gaping maw that's coming for you.
But also that's
Absolutely.
a function of the time too,
Right.
because
Yeah.
when the arena first came out,
Mhm.
we didn't have that available to even do that, so no one was really even looking at that, and that's one of the really cool
Right.
things that we get to see here with this particular species, because it's iconic. I mean, I didn't watch uh I didn't watch anything Star Trek until the 80s, but I still remember the first time I saw the Gorn, and Kirk fighting in the arena, and that was absolutely mind blowing. And how we've seen everything change, and how we do effects, and how these are even made
Yeah.
is just so spectacular. So today, yeah, we probably couldn't just throw someone up in a rubber suit and
Exactly.
do that,
It wouldn't fly.
but it's also, we're seeing an evolution of this monster that we've seen for what, 60 something years now,
Yeah.
or close
And it's an
to.
evolution of technology and special
Yeah.
Mhm.
effects.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
they're still as like mystery filled, and like my only issue with them doing the Gorn in Strange New Worlds is in TOS, like the Gorn were a complete unknown. So like, are we gonna have to get into like some Section 31 like hiding of history type stuff?
I hope so.
I don't know, but that has nothing to do with the creatures themselves.
I do
Yeah.
want them to explore that character, because The Gorn, are going to remain this mysterious fear until we get to know what's happening, and how really they think. And they don't even speak the way we do, because in the original series, he really didn't speak. I mean, you got to see Kirk with his shirt off fighting again. I mean, but hey, no one's complaining here about that. But I'm a TOS girly. What can I tell you?
Mhm.
Um, I would love to see hand-to-hand combat with the Strange New World Gorns and one of the main crew. I mean, I could see him fighting Spock as being one of the strongest physically. You know, I would love to see that, or even Pike. Hey, take his shirt off too. I'm good with that. But
Daddy
It's got to be
Pike.
Pike, because if it's Spock, my brain is going to melt. Like, how did Spock not recognize that?
How did Spock not know that? Yeah. Yeah. And
exactly, it
Spock's
should
got to be
be
somewhere else or doing something else.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
He's off
Yes,
mind melding with someone. Don't worry, he's fine. He's just not in this episode.
yes,
Yeah.
I can't wait till they
absolutely.
dust off the TOS suit and bring it back as the Gorn ambassador as an Easter egg or something. Like, come on.
Oh my God.
Hi, I'm the Gorn ambassador.
Whatever Gorn they come up with as an adult Gorn has to be wearing the TOS Gorn uniform. What do you guys think?
I was thinking that like an updated version, but like the same kind
Yeah.
of style. And it's like, I was thinking about like, how would that's actually what I was thinking about. I was like, how
Now,
would they
Dev
do that
has an
costume?
interesting comment about this. Dev says, Laan with the Gorn, because she does have a
Ooh,
history and there is a lot of anger going on there.
I
I
think
can
he was
see
trying
that
to say
happening.
Gorn versus the versus Lon in the
Yeah,
newer
Gorn
remake
versus Laan.
because she lost
Absolutely.
her whole family and
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
whole as she experienced all this already once and
Yeah,
now
and I
they're
think that
working on it
that
again.
anger will fuel her to do some incredible hand-to-hand combat. Absolutely. But let's move on, because we could talk about Star Trek all night here.
Mhm.
No
And
complaints.
we have got to that's right, we got to talk about John
Oh,
Carpenter's The Thing, who's a shapeshifter. How lovely is this guy? Who wants to go on a date with the Thing? I mean, no one, right? He's gross. Eric, talk to me about The Thing. Hmm.
I mean, John Carpenter, The Thing, I truly iconic. What a fantastic
Yes.
original movie. The remake was good, but the original is just hands down. I can watch that movie over and over and over and over again. I absolutely love it. The acting is great. The creature effects are
Yes.
awesome. But what I really love about the thing is that it's a movie that really plays on human weaknesses, especially our
Mhm.
paranoia and
mhm,
mistrust of each other. And it does so in this really sort of unforgettable setting of like the Arctic, right? And they're isolated and cut off from the rest of the world. And just the way that the movie is filmed in and of itself with these really eerie, creepy shots where you feel very claustrophobic the whole time you're watching it. Um, it's incredible, and of course, then it has this crazy, bloody, gory body horror mess that I absolutely find delightful in my sci-fi
mhm.
horror.
Yes, absolutely. Miranda, do you what do you think of this shapeshifter? Date or no date with him?
I'm gonna have to go no date. It has nothing to do with appearances. It does have everything to do with he murdered every single human that he came across, and
True.
is that because of what the Norwegians did to him? I don't know. Um, and that does lead me to a point. How terrible of hunters are those Norwegians in this? Like in the start of the movie, like that you got the helicopter, you got all of those fancy weapons, and you can't hit the wolf. Like, I mean, come on. Well, what's going on with that? But that was just something I zeroed in on. I really, really enjoyed this. I cannot believe I was allowed to watch this when I was such a young child.
Yeah, same.
Best time to
Because
watch
I
it.
had to
That's because we were
rewatch
raised by
this one.
boomers. And if it kept us out of their way, they were good with it.
Yeah. Yeah, guilty on that. Well, at least one boomer and one
One
silent
boomer,
gen,
one boomer.
actually. But yeah, I had to rewatch this in preparation for it, and fantastic flick. I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And as far as far as a otherworldly creature goes, that shapeshifter definitely up there in my book.
Absolutely. Sarah, Queen of
Uh,
Darkness.
this is one of this. This was my first pick when we said let's do sci-fi monsters. I said, oh, I got one. This still scares the shit out of me. Straight up. I mean, it's a good movie and I like it, but I have to watch it during the day because then it's that like Eric said that the fear of the unknown because I can't see outside. You know what I mean? During the day with the lights on. But I think it was very. It did it. It did and it did. It played on the whole the isolated. Now we consider them tropes, but they weren't really like that much then. But that the stranded crew and they've got a monster, an alien, a creature, XYZ, and they've got a battle and one by one they all die. And it just but this one it's like it was that you never know if the person is real or if it's the monster, and that messes with my head really bad. And I think that's the psychological part of it. But as a creature feature, it's the effects were good. Really glad Odo never did this because I would have lost my shit.
I
But
was just
what I
thinking,
mean?
it's kind of like Odo though, because it's
Yeah.
not very good with faces at first.
Right. And then it's like, but it kind of makes me wonder, if we didn't have this, maybe we wouldn't have got Odo. You know what I mean? That was,
Yeah.
because sci-fi, like the new Gorn, it builds on something, that's one of the things I love about sci-fi is that it's continuously building on itself and making bigger and better and wilder things. But if we hadn't started somewhere, like if we hadn't started with Frankenstein, we wouldn't have got Data. I was thinking about that when we were doing that during that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the process is that wherever we start, we build on it and we go back, and it keeps growing. And I really enjoy that. That's the one thing I really, not the one thing, but one of the things I really enjoy about sci-fi is that we get progression from, something like this to something else.
Oh, absolutely. And you could see the progression in special effects and
Hmm.
makeup artists. All of these things are something so primal and necessary for science fiction,
Well,
television, and movies.
I watched the remake and it didn't scare me as bad as this one did because it's like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, because the effects have upgraded and all that, but it wasn't as scary as this one. And I don't know if it's just because it's burned in my memory or if it's just
Maybe.
because of the way I think Leah said something this week that the older movies are scarier because
Mhm.
they seem more because they're not so crisp and clean. They seem more like I mean, and she's 11, but that they're like watching a home movie kind of that because of
Yes.
because of the quality of them, they're more realistic to her than the fancy new movies. So maybe that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, I agree. Deb said in the chat about the John Carpenter
Here,
is
I'll
far
pull it up.
better. I didn't even. I totally forgot about the 1950s version of the film. My reference was definitely the Carpenter film is hands down the best, and I agree with you as well, Sarah. The newer version was just a little too slick and polished, and in
Mhm.
doing so, it kind of lost for me sort of that razor's edge that made the Carpenter's film so horrific. And it's that it just there's a sort of I don't know granularity to the film, and
Yes. Hmm.
feels a
It,
little
it
bit more. Even though you can pause and nitpick on some little things, but just that the isolation and the distrust and the psychological toll that it's taken on the characters.
Yes.
It
It's
leaves more to the
palpable. And
imagination.
yeah, and you exactly, yeah, definitely, Miranda. There's a lot more of the unknown
Well, it's
component
like
that
watching
played through.
Psycho, the original, and Psycho, the latest version of it. The original is always gonna terrify me more.
Mm.
There's something about the quality of the movie that it's always more frightening. I think so. I totally agree with you guys.
That's
Now we
me with
have,
Jaws.
yes,
If they ever
exactly.
remake Jaws, it doesn't matter. I still hold my breath every single time. In the original, I've seen it like 40 times.
Unless it's in 3D. No, just
Absolutely. And now we have Alien. Now, he is one of my favorite scary movies because every movie just gets more and more frightening. Um and for me to watch anyway. And I feel like the development in the special effects of these characters, of these scary, alien creatures, is intensified by the fact that no one really understands how to communicate with them, and the not knowing intensifies the fear. So Miranda, we're going to start with you. Talk to me about Alien.
Well, my favorite by far is Aliens itself. The sequel. And I actually watched Alien and Aliens this week again in preparation. It's been a while. But yeah, the xenomorphs are cool just because you don't know exactly what variant you're going to end up getting, and they
Right.
keep evolving. I haven't followed the franchise, further. Like, I've never seen Prometheus or anything that it launched in the modern era. I barely even remember Resurrection. I was like in high school when that one came out. But yeah, the original two, I just remember like, oh my god. It lives rent free in my head that John Hurt actually came back and reenacted the scene in Spaceballs. Like, it's that iconic of a franchise that
I
the
forgot about that.
original actor came back and did it in a spoof movie too.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
just
yeah,
I love xenomorphs.
absolutely. Me too. I love them. They terrify me. So, Eric, have you ever been inspired by the storyline of Alien?
Inspired?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Hands down, love Alien. Alien, the first movie, is one of those ones I could, again, like I mentioned about another movie, I could just watch it over and over and over again. And every time it's on, I will stop. That'll stop me in my tracks. Aliens Part 2, wasn't that Cameron, right, that did that? That's a riot. I love that. But there's something so special about the first movie. I absolutely adore. I mean, it's so interesting too, the mythology, because we have so many alien films now, right? When
Yep.
before Aliens 2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6 and all these other ones, with just Alien, there was something really special and really unique happening. We didn't know about its evolutionary life cycle. We didn't know anything about the creature, right? So it was purely a
Yes.
pure sci-fi horror story. We just
Absolutely.
knew that this thing is, you had this horrific bodily invasion episode, right? The way that it seeds itself inside of a human host, like a parasite. Spoiler alert. And then bursts out of their chest, which was just mind blowing at the time. And then the fact that this creature then just darts off into the shadows And over the course of hours or maybe a day, I don't know how much time actually passes in that movie, it evolves at like a superhuman speed, and it becomes just this apex primal predator,
Yes.
and just shows the insignificance of our soft fleshy bits, and
Oh
as
yes,
it
absolutely.
just decimates the crew and just eviscerates anything except for the cat that it comes in contact with. And that, I just reviled in it in the best, most glorious possible way. I absolutely adored everything about that. And then, of course, you've got the queen herself, Sigourney Weaver. And
Yes, you
as a
must love
teenage
her.
boy, I was just in love. And that was the closest thing I ever got to seeing, Sexy Mama. And I was like, this was a great movie. And just the psychologically how she deals with that. I mean, that, the escape pod scene, it's just so tense. She thinks, and you, the watcher, you feel you're with her, you're breathing the same air, and she's like, oh my God, I made it out. And then you see the top of his head kind of poke out of the, it's kind of sleeping, nestled up in the wires, and you're like, oh my God, it was just pure terror. It's such an iconic, I can go on and on, I'm sorry, Nita, but
It's
it's
okay.
I
I'm
just love
enjoying
this
it.
movie so much, because then as you get into the series, they really spend time with, furthering the mythology of what the xenomorph is and how it came into
Exactly.
being, and why it sort of crossbreeds with its host and creates an iconically new version of itself, like in this picture that you have up. But there's something so pure, especially with the theme of the scary side of sci-fi in the show today, is this is chef's kiss, perfect
Absolutely.
sci-fi horror movie.
We can't talk about scary sci-fi and not bring this guys up, because they are as scary and as sci-fi as it gets, for sure. Sarah, talk to me about the xenomorphs.
When I think of scary aliens, this is the first thing that comes to mind. I know John Carpenter's thing scares me, but that I don't know. That's an on Earth thing. This is like when I think of space aliens. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? The difference between,
yes,
but like scary aliens in space or out there somewhere. This is this is one of them, and just like Eric said, the way that it's so invasive, and that they grab you, and they seed you basically, and then let you go, and you think you're okay, but you're not. And that in that first one, we don't even know. And then,
yeah,
they're all eating dinner, and then, oh shit. And you know what I mean? Um,
absolutely.
it's just, to me, it's that classic mix of sci-fi and horror, but just the right amount. And
Yes.
then I'm a dedicated fan. I've seen them all. Deb and I even went and saw the new one in the theater, and it's still, they're continuing on, and I like where they're going with it, and I like that we saw still some of the same lineage and the same evolutions that we've seen in other movies. They kind of brought it all together, because like sometimes for a while there they kind of got like off the deep end a little bit, if you know what I mean. But they brought it back around, and I really enjoy a good xenomorph. Any reiteration, or iteration, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, from the dog ones to the queen, I love them all, and that's just. I mean, they scare me, but they don't scare me like that. They're the thing that I love. Like I'm like, I love
It's like a good
it. It just,
scare.
yeah, it's a good scary. I mean, it doesn't. There's not really a lot of jump scares. Like I know it's coming, but like I can handle these. Now
Oh,
the Gorn,
absolutely.
I'm not sure, because I don't know. We'll see.
These are classic scary movies. They have scared people for so many years, and I love the evolution of the xenomorphs. I love the way they were introduced. And you could almost say that they knew they were going to make several movies because of the way they were introduced and kind of giving us a bit more of what's happening. And I absolutely love that concept. And I love that they're just unapologetically
There.
scary and violent. They just
Mhm.
I
are.
mean, yeah,
That's
they
in
are
their nature.
horror. They
Mhm.
are. I think there's almost something like genetically predisposed in our DNA when we see the alien in aliens that we are completely revolt, and just the idea, the concept of the alien, because it's almost Darwinian. Like
Mhm.
these are the purest form of nature in its
Yeah.
most lethal, right?
Yeah, like
It's
the
not
the step
like
above us on
Frankenstein,
the
which is
food
like this
chain.
creation, right?
Hmm.
Frankenstein's horror is like this, the monster's like this creation. This is like something that evolved into being something that makes every other living being obsolete.
Hmm.
And I think we just, like, genetically, we revolt at that, and that probably just makes me happier because of it.
Absolutely. But let's go on to our next scary sci-fi. And we can't talk about Alien without talking about Predator. And Predator is terrifying because for me, because he kind of just showed up in the jungle, and he's no one really knew where he was from or how he got here, and you saw the toughest soldiers try to get him and they couldn't, and he was pretty tough and terrifying. Miranda, what do you think about Predator?
Um, out of all of them on the list, this is my least favorite. Yeah, I know. I know. I never got into this franchise. I watched Predator again maybe a few years ago, and like it's great for iconic 80s references, but
Yes.
it just never really captured me. It it seemed like it was just too overpowered, and then we get into like Alien versus Predator territory too.
Hmm.
With that, like those were fun, but uh, again, it was just like a little like, okay, this is ridiculous, and I love the ridiculous. I don't understand why I have this take on it, but Predator just never did it for me.
That's okay. We all can have different thoughts on it. That's what we're here, right? To talk about how we feel about it. It's all good.
Hmm.
Eric, how about you? Yay or nay on the Predator?
I think I sort of share Miranda's sentiment with the Predator, but let me caveat that to me, it holds a certain nostalgic 80s charm. I forgot what year the Predator came out. It had to have been what, later 80s, 86,
Yeah.
87, something like
Hmm.
that.
I
I
want to
was
say
prob
87.
About
87. So
87,
yeah,
88.
I was
Absolutely.
probably like 13, 14 years old when I saw it in the theater with my buddies. And it was, we loved Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time. So, we saw it. We just thought it was the coolest. It was to me, it was more of a sci-fi action adventure,
Hmm.
more so than a horror movie.
Yeah.
It really is kind of that creature feature type of film, with sci-fi elements. Um, it had some really good iconic lines, like at the ending when he says I forgot exactly the curse word, like when how ugly he is or whatever.
Yes.
Arnold makes that comment. But I thought, going back and watching The Predator again now, um, decades later, I think I do have an appreciation for the movie that I didn't necessarily have at the time, that's come with wisdom and age. And it really comes with, I would say, my love of Joseph Conrad and Heart of Darkness. So movies like Predator and Apocalypse Now and even Platoon and those types of movies that are set in these jungle-like environments where you have sort of man versus nature, man versus man. And like those elements of the story are the parts I really kind of glob onto, that sort of
Yes.
horror, the
Mhm.
horror of
Mhm.
Heart of Darkness, and just the fear that I have of putting myself into those shoes. Like, I've never been to a jungle, but I would probably be the worst person to be in a jungle. I would be terrified of every little tiny thing that brushed my arms. Here I am, a guy writing horror all day long, and I would be the biggest sissy in that environment. And but that terrifies me in a way. And so that element of the Predator movie, and then just being stalked and chased, and that's a lot of what that first movie is, by the unknown again, is what
Yeah.
lends that fun suspense in that sort of action adventure wrapping.
Oh, absolutely. Sarah, how about you?
I like them, but I see them, because of the AVP movies that we got, or the Alien versus Predators, that they were like bred to be, or they were a hunting race. I mean, they've always been a hunting race, but then like they, you know what I mean? That, and they are super overpowered. But then think about it: if they're fighting a xenomorph, they need to be super overpowered to win. Because I
For
mean,
sure.
every movie, Ripley was the only one that survived. The first two movies, because even no matter what we had, it didn't work. Um, but I also, I've seen all these too because my ex-husband was all about Predator. So I've been made to watch every iteration ever. um, but I mean, I truly enjoyed it. And like in the newer one, the new one, Prey. I know we watched that and we reviewed that one. That one was good, and that was different. I kind of like that. It was more back to the original. I don't know, Eric, have you seen it?
Yeah, the
The
newest
new,
one. Yeah.
yeah, the with the native girl.
Yeah.
Um,
hmm
Yes.
that was more back to the beginning. Back to Schwarzenegger in the jungle. And I've been to a jungle. I've been to Hawaii
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
been out and
Yeah.
traipsing around the jungle. And there's a lot that we don't know. Like cane grass is razor sharp. Like the water can kill you. The ground can kill you. And like when they in Predators, when they dropped all these people that they just grabbed off of Earth into the jungle and like set them loose so that the predators could hunt them. It was really kind of that back to that feeling of helplessness and being in an environment you're not familiar with, and everything out there, including the other animals, the other people, the environment, and the predators are trying to kill you. And
Yeah.
that's where the suspense for me comes from, because everything is hostile, and even the people that you think are your allies still want to kill you secretly. And it goes back, it's that psychological, like, even your allies aren't really your allies, and how are you going
Yeah.
to survive?
Yeah.
And like with Alien, how Eric said that you're with, or maybe it was Miranda, but you're with Ripley when she's in um that life pod. And that's, some of these newer movies make you feel like that. And I think they've toned it down a little bit. It's not as extreme as like the 80s Predator and Predator 2. I mean, Predator 2 with Danny Glover that was 2, wasn't it? With Danny Glover.
Yeah.
I
Um,
think so.
it was ridiculous, but I liked it. But it was just, yeah, it was, I don't even know how
The
to describe
80s
that one.
was all about the scarier the movie, the better mentality.
Right.
They made a lot of scary movies that were definitely out there. But let's go on to our next
Okay.
one.
Can I bring
Now,
up one thing? Sorry,
oh,
before
Oh
we
yeah.
sure,
jump.
sure.
Just because I saw that Dev mentioned in chat about Prey, and you mentioned Prey as well, Sarah, because I totally had forgotten about Prey when I was
Hmm.
thinking about my Predator experience.
Yeah.
That movie was really, it got about some mixed reviews
Hmm.
from the general sort of
Yes,
cinema audience, but I actually really enjoyed it
it was
for
an
something
excellent movie.
completely different of what I
Yeah.
expected from a Predator film. Because with the original Predator, you've got this what if the hunters became the hunted kind of thing, right? You know, you had like all these Navy SEALs and Marines and like all these best of the best, and sort of was like a trial by combat sort of thing. And what I really loved about the Prey movie was it was this little girl, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was set in a completely different time frame, and it
Mhm.
was more about sort of the true sensibility of trying to survive,
Yeah.
um,
I think this comment
versus
really,
just
I got
like
yeah,
the the A team versus the other side's A team, and let's smash them
exactly.
together. It was more. It was a different.
It was
There was
Hunter
a
versus
different,
Hunter.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a different sort of tenacity about it, and
Hmm.
just sort of um, uh, humanity
Hmm.
about the story. Yeah,
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
like
that
this
was really
comment
good.
about that. It says, modern day hunters are overpowered compared to prey. So it is reversed for that for humans. And it's true. I mean, you've got these, soldiers who were supposed to be doing the hunting and became the hunted. And now this one little, person, she's overpowering this alien and taking over. And I thought that was a fantastic kind of twist to it, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I'll have to check this one out. It's, like I said, it's never been my favorite series, but
yeah.
y'all got
We
me
will
interested
forgive
in
you for
Prey.
that.
Yeah. Prey came out on Hulu. I think I'm not, and
I
it
believe
might
it's
still
on
be there.
Hulu. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it was.
sure
That's
Yeah.
where
Kat
we
will tell
watched
me
it.
where I can find it after the show.
Hmm.
So we're going to go on to our next one, which is your classic Doctor Who Weeping Angel.
Oh yeah.
There is something terrifying about statues. As someone who lives in New York City, Manhattan are filled with these statues, and they can be a bit scary. But they took this theory or this thought process and actually made it quite scary. Sarah, what are your thoughts on the Doctor Who Weeping Angel?
Uh, they're like the big bad villain for me. Like even more so than the Master to me. Like the Master, meh, like he could be she, they could be an ally or an enemy, but like these are always going to be the enemy. And you never know where, what's going to happen, where they're going to turn up. And it's that keeping them in the dark, the unknown, and then not knowing what's coming. And then when you do, you don't know what to do. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat, even though, I mean, it's classic Doctor Who now, but it's still makes my heart race. Like, oh God, what, even if I know what's going to happen, it's like, come on, make it. And, it's just that you're holding your breath with the characters. And that's, because these are truly scary to me.
Oh, absolutely. Eric, what are your thoughts on
I
the
mean,
Weeping Angels?
just look at that picture. Says it all. I love it. I mean, if the alien xenomorphs make you scared of the darkness, I mean, the angels, like, they make you fear the space between blinks. And
Yes.
Yep.
um, you know, there it's that episode, is the episode called Blink that
Y-
immortalized these
The
angels?
Don't
first
blink.
episode, yeah,
Don't
Yeah,
blinked.
blink.
they're,
Hmm.
where they
Yeah.
not blinking became, yeah, that just exemplifies how, like you can, whoever wrote this particular or created this particular creation for Doctor Who really knew how to turn small actions and utilize that to sort of anchor our fear in something ordinary becoming extraordinary, and I really love that.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such an involuntary action, like blinking. You don't think about how many times you blink.
I
You
mean, just
don't.
exploiting basic human instinct to look away,
Yeah.
like that is just really cool. It's super clever, and well, being iconic on one part, it's also supremely terrifying, isn't it? Because it's sort of
Yes.
it plays on this sort of what you might mistake for madness might actually just being overly acute senses, if that makes sense,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely
Like
agreed.
and I love when I think about that conceptually as a writer, I love like utilizing like something that you take for granted and sort of ratcheting up to 11 and then spinning it on its head, and that's what the Angels did sort of for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Miranda?
These are my absolute favorite. They terrify me when you first switch to it. I don't know if anyone noticed or could tell from my current lighting, but I was actually blinking one eye at a time. That's the level, like that's how deep ingrained this one is.
Right?
And I love that they keep adding to the lore, but everything like Blink is by far my favorite episode of Doctor Who. And I loved the series before it, but that particular episode drove it just beyond. Super fan. Absolutely love. They terrify me. I even remember like one time, I think it was at WonderCon, like actually seeing a weeping angel and freaking out.
That's so
Like
cool.
my con freak out stories are fun, but like that one in particular, like there is something real and visceral there that
Like
even
someone
though
was cosplay like that.
yeah,
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
yeah.
That's yesterday or the day before, a video came across my reels on Facebook, and it was a girl doing angel makeup. I'm like, nope. And then and then and then Leah brought me her tablet like yesterday, and like, Mom, watch this. She does the best angel makeup. I'm like, no, I already like said no. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because an image of an image of an angel contains an angel. And I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Absolutely.
One time
Yeah.
when one of our guests in the chat used to be my roommate, I actually have an angel mask, and so I put it on and put my hoodie there and just waited for him to come home from work. It was hilarious.
That is
Ooh.
hilarious to
Roommate
terrify
love.
someone like that. Exactly. So let's go on to our next scary spooky. Now, this is our last
Ooh.
one, which is one of my favorites. I have seen every zombie movie, every zombie TV show, every Walking Dead series episode. I am a zombie extraordinaire expert. I love zombies. And the zombies in the Walking Dead are terrifying. I love the aging progression that the makeup artists give them. If you watch the first series of The Walking Dead and you see the first episode, you can tell that this is a man or this is a woman or who they are. But as each series progresses through time, they become less and less identifiable. And I love that about these zombies. um Eric, do you like zombies?
I absolutely love zombies, but I especially love The Walking Dead. I'm right there, fist bump with you, Nita. The Walking Dead is phenomenal. I
Phenomenal.
just finished a rewatch of the whole collected box set, and it's funny that we're talking about this today because I was at my library earlier today and I picked up the Blu-ray of season 1 of the Rick and Michonne spin-off series. I
Yes.
haven't seen it yet. I watched the Daryl Dixon ones and stuff. But anyways, so The Walking Dead, I love zombies, but what I really love about zombies and The Walking Dead is the anecdote of what the zombies mean. And so right to the heart of the scary side of sci-fi, like this post-apocalyptic setting of the Walking Dead, and it being sort of this reflection of our own society, has really, just having just come off rewatching it, really hit me so much harder in today's times right now, with the
Yes,
divisiveness of everything going on in the US and
absolutely.
election season and just everything. And like those of us that are fighting for progress and equity and the survival of humanity and are just like those residents in Alexandria, right?
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and just they're trying to build something better. They're trying to salvage some good in their lives out of the state that they're in. And in that sort of analogy, there's these regressive, hostile, blind allegiance,
Yes.
mind-numbingly stupid, ravaging, mindless undead that are just coming at them endlessly, trying to devour and destroy everything that's good about what they're trying to make of their little community. And it's just such a terrifyingly perfect sci-fi parable of humanity's struggle with
Yes.
itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you've said it in many episodes of Sci-Fi Queens, Nita, that The Walking Dead is, you know, The Walking Dead are the humans. It's
Yes,
not about the
absolutely.
zombies.
And it
And
really
while
is a
the zombies,
revelation of who we are in the midst of an extreme crisis as people
Mhm.
towards others and each other, and how we interact with one another. There is that sense of, no, I'm not going to cooperate and build something better. I'm going to take care of me and my own, and that's it. And there's this progression of the real fear isn't the dead as much as it is the living and the damage
Mhm.
they can do.
And we
absolutely. And
see that
so
play
Mhm.
out.
that, you know,
Mhm.
Yep.
the zombie component is sort of just the icing on the cake. It sort of covers and creates this nice fantastical world that we get to live in and
Yes.
experience. But
Yes.
it's the real terror of the zombie story is,
Mhm.
you know, how it reflects back on our own inadequacies and our own
Mhm.
ability to cope and to deal with change and to I don't know. I'm kind of like rabbit holing here because it's just there's so much depth and layers there, but
Yeah,
at the same time, it seems so glaringly obvious that it is a perfect parable of the time we're living in right now,
absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's
and
just
it's
something that if
terrifying.
you go back to like Night of the Living Dead, or any, even I've watched even black and white zombie movies,
Mhm.
you can see uh how humanity reacts, how humanity behaves, and how we treat each other in these times. And it is that's one thing about science fiction. It truly is about what's happening in our society, and it doesn't ever age, because we continue to see that evolution in science fiction. Miranda, what do you think about the zombies?
Oh, I absolutely love The Walking Dead. It is probably my favorite zombie like property. Although I do really love Warm Bodies. That movie just has a special
I like
place in
that
my
one
heart.
too.
That was a good one,
But
yes.
aside from that, and just with the points that were brought up, that it's really, The Walking Dead are the human survivors,
Yeah.
like that really captured my imagination. And just having this persistent threat, this all-consuming threat driving the story forward. um and how we got to see just the interpersonal dynamics that develop, and then like your favorite character, something happens to them, maybe they get bashed over the head with the baseball bat. Thanks, Negan. But still haven't forgiven him. Or maybe they go out and then just full-blown self-sacrifice. They know it's going to happen anyway. They set themselves up and save everyone else. I freaking love you, Sasha. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen this, but we all know that she had to do that to become Michael Burnham, right?
Hello,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
But that aside, just
One becomes the
everything.
other.
Yeah, everything about this show, it made me uneasy. I was very hesitant to watch it, but I have just thoroughly enjoyed it. And the zombies are just, like I said, they're just there, just driving the plot forward, and they're not even what's scary about it.
Oh,
Love it.
absolutely. I absolutely love the progression in I can't say enough about the special effects and the makeup
Mhm.
that these
Yeah.
actors go through to create these zombies. It's absolutely fantastic. Kudos to them. The imagination is just it's so unreal. Like who comes up with these faces? Like who damaged you? How do you think that way? But they do such a fantastic job, and I absolutely love it. Sarah, how about you?
Oh, I'm diehard. I love The Walking Dead. I'm a little behind. I had to walk away. Um, I walked away for a while, but I'm working my way back in. Like I was diehard. I would watch it every week and like be in Facebook chats, like live chats. We'd talk about the show, and um, they killed Jesus, and like I was up, I'm out. Like I made it through Carl, and Abe. At first, it was Abe. I knew Glenn was going, but I didn't. I was pissed about Abe, but I hung out, and then I was mad about Carl, and then like third time's a charm, and I was like, okay, and I walked away, and then we had the actual pandemic, and I couldn't watch. It's only been like in the last year that I've been able to watch any zombie movies again or any zombie properties, anything, because it messed with me mentally because it was too close to reality. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself. I couldn't. I mean, and my kid laughs at me, but she's like, I get it, mommy. I'm like, because it scared the crap out of me. I'm just like, nope, we're not going to do that because that's kind of what's going on outside. Go ahead.
That's so real.
Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
mean, just
That's really funny. You bring up a really good point about that, Sarah. Like about how like people dropped off at Carl, people dropped off of Jesus. Like when this show was on, when it was like the top-rated show on TV or whatever,
Hmm.
like Game of Thrones, this was a show that we talked about at work. Like
Hmm.
every week, it was like, I can't wait to watch The Walking Dead and what's going to find out next. It was like
Yep.
water cooler talk. It was
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
that part of like the zeitgeist of our culture at the time. And I think Walking Dead's kind of like a fine wine. Like I've coming back to it again now that the main series has been over for some years, and since the first season came out, it is fantastic. Because I had, similar to you, Sarah, I had moments in the show where I dropped off and was kind of like, all right, it's like the same old thing, because of that sort of, just sort of familiarity breeds contempt. We kind of
Hmm.
get bored of it
Yeah.
because it became such a like soap opera
Yes.
that
Hmm.
we were vested in like the drama bits of it.
Yeah.
And
Forget the zombies. I want to know about the people.
right, and that's awesome. It made for great, compelling TV. But then they were trying to sustain this pacing of like, we got to one up ourselves each time, because
Yeah.
your appetite, you start to become complacent to it, right? But
Hmm.
coming back to it and just rewatching it fresh again, it was revolutionary. Because
Absolutely.
I knew that I wasn't having to wait a week for it to come out to be disappointed by something that someone told me I should be disappointed in. Instead,
Yeah.
I got to experience it in its totality, and it is. I highly recommend going back and watching it again. You probably have, Nita. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
a great it is great storytelling. It's amazing
Mhm.
writing. The zombies are truly scary. They evolve,
Yeah.
they sustain this ability to kind of always make you uneasy. But you're
Yeah.
removed from that
Hmm.
whole like, oh,
Mhm.
what's going to happen next week? Oh, I better stay up to date so I have something to talk about with my coworkers. Like all that's removed. Now you just get to like saturate in The Walking Dead, and
Mhm.
Yep,
it
that's
is
one of the things
really good.
about streaming that makes it so great because you could always go back at any point in time and really rewatch it and kind of get the
Mhm.
nuances that you might have missed the first time around because you're too busy jumping out of your seat when you saw a scary zombie.
Yeah.
That's a great point. You can go
Mhm.
back and watch the highs and highs and the lows and lows,
Yeah,
and really the
absolutely.
beats
Well,
in it
that's
that really resonated and which ones didn't. But yeah, you're right. Good stuff.
Hmm.
Thank you.
with my rewatch. I started with instead of starting with The Walking Dead because it actually picks up 3 months into it. I started with Fear, so I'm going in timeline order, and that's
Excellent.
it's easier to for me to stomach it, I guess, because we can see, there's still a lot of people, and Walking Dead, there's not really that many people. I mean, there's people, but not a lot.
Mhm.
But like
And there's
in
the
Fear,
government is still sort of intact, the
right,
military.
right. The
Mhm.
government's still there. It's the first days that we wanted to know about, like when they're quarantine areas and there's people still living there, and and the fall of that, and it's enjoyable to me. And then because that's enjoyable now, I'm able to continue forward. Um, but I had a thought while we were talking about it, while you guys were talking, that this actually, like the Walking Dead zombies, actually links back, and then how the zombies aren't the monsters, it's the people, and it links back to the Frankenstein story. That it's Frankenstein, the
Yes.
monster. Learn what it's really, understanding it is understanding that the doctor is the monster, not the creature, and that's what The Walking Dead teaches us, is that the humans are the monsters and the zombies are just part of the scenery. They're just part of the environment,
Mhm.
and
Exactly.
that makes us think and makes us feel things that we don't know how to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
absolutely. But we are going to move on to our next segment. Normally, it will be
Mhm.
the female scientist, but we wanted to give more time to this conversation that we
Yep.
were having. So we skipped it this week, but we are not skipping sci fi book recommendation. I have been waiting all week for this because I normally put out announcements and say I'm going to review this book or this comic, and I've been very quiet about it. And I'm going to let you guys know why. Because the author is here with us tonight. We are reviewing Grim Night Room by Eric Williamson, and the pictures are amazing by Anna Mosak. She did a fantastic job of frightening me while I read this. I'm grown. I shouldn't be scared, but I was. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. I love it. It is definitely something you can read to your kids if they like scary and spooky things. This is the most delightful and scary children's book I have ever read. The author took the classic child story and turned it into a wonderfully written spooky story that both adults and children can enjoy. So if your child likes spooky stories, or if you like spooky stories, because I bought it for me. Okay. You, especially now with Halloween, you definitely want to read this. And the imagery that Animals that creates in these pictures that she drew brings out all of the writings that Eric did, and really brings that image, that image, when you read and you get that image in your head of what you're reading, it brings it to light as you're reading it. And I tried reading this at night, and I kind of like couldn't finish that, so I read it during the day. It's a little bit scary. So, and I like scary, and this is a fantastic book. I absolutely loved it, and thank you so much for writing this because I really enjoyed this. I remember reading Good Night Moon to my Good Night Moon to my niece when she was little, and she's into spooky things even when she was little, and now she's grown with her own child. And I'm definitely going to get her a copy of this because I think she would definitely enjoy your iteration of this book. Absolutely. So, guys, you guys need to go follow Eric, and definitely purchase this book. Eric, where can they purchase this book?
You can get a copy of. So we've got we did two things. We created a hardcover version of Grim Night Moon, which Grim Night Room. You got me saying moon.
No, Moon.
Which so to give you a little context, you can get this hard copy version. We only printed 25 of them. Anna, who is an incredible artist, she lives in Krakow, Poland. She's my better half on this book. I like to say we're half a world apart, but we come together to end your world, and that's kind of what we're doing here with this.
He absolutely ended my world with this book.
Printed these hardcover copies that you can get at my website, which is miscreantmedia.bigcartel.com. And then we also have paperback copies of it, which is I think what you have, Nita, right? Which is the floppy paperback. But you can also get these on Amazon too. So we made them available on Amazon so that we could service everybody in the entire globe and not have to pay ridiculous international shipping fees from ordering from us. So they're print on demand anywhere, which is awesome. And I did want to mention one thing. So one of the things, and I love everything you just said, Nita, because this is such a great and important story to me. Good Night Moon. So I have a copy checked out from my local library. This is.
Are they getting it back?
They are getting it back. I checked it out so I could show it on your cast tonight. So this book was written in 1947 by Margaret Wise Brown, and pictures were by Clement Hurd. Okay, so 1947 this came out, and this is sort of an iconic American bedtime kids story that a lot of people had as board books because they would slobber on it as kids, and in all different permutations. My mom read it to me. I read it to my kids. It's Good Night Moon, the cow jumping over the moon, the lady in red, and all the little like sing-songy rhymes was something that just kind of indelibly stuck in your head. It was just very iconic in America. But I have been working on this other series called When We Were the Voyage, and it is a hyper extreme sci-fi horror story. And
so good, guys.
It is pure essence evil body horror, second person immersion that just takes the reader and rips you apart like Pinhead and Hellraiser. And that's my goal. So anyways, I've got this other story, right? And in it, we have these aliens that are arriving at the planet Earth, and they are here to liquefy all organic matter, basically, because they're cosmic artists traveling the cosmos, and they use organic matter as their form of paints or inks, let's put it. And just their proximity to Earth warps our culture, warps our mentality, warps our literature, warps everything around them, because they are just pure embodiment of darkness and entropy and despair and evil. And so I had come out with this ash can called When We Were the Voyage for my upcoming graphic novel, which is coming out later this year, and have written a couple little standalone spin-offs in that series. One was called Whispers from the Voyage, which featured our illustrious Battle Queen as a cameo character in it. But I wanted to continue to sort of seed and leave breadcrumbs leading up to this eventual release. And because of these villains, alien villains, sort of manipulating our culture, all of our cultural media and relevance, I thought, well, what else can they get their tentacles in before this book comes out? And I was like, Good Night Moon, perfect.
Excellent, yes.
that's a
So
good idea.
Grim Night Room is sort of a response to another project I'm working on, my love and nostalgia, and how I could absolutely just break it in half. And so we wrote this book as a less of a parody, even though we say parody because of like copyright and all that stuff, but it is an homage to
Yes,
the
it is.
origin. It very much it is, you know, it has a sing-song rhyme. It has almost cartoon like twisted childlike horrific imagery, but it's a fable and a story for adults. I call it a twisted children's bedtime story for adults, and I had so much fun creating it, and I just hope that you just give it a shot, because it is something I can see pulling out each year around Halloween and just giving a reread and reading it to kids. You're reading it to, you know,
Yes. I think it could be a Halloween tradition for parents and even adults to read this book. Absolutely.
especially if you like a little bit of the spooky side. It's not, it's tastefully done. Anna Mochek's artwork is immaculate. It's so
Yes, it
crisp
is.
and clean and resonant, and it was a fun project. And I'm so glad you shared it, Nina. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's why I was keeping it a secret because I knew you were going to be on.
My face is hot.
Yeah. So, Eric, tell me about where you're going to be this weekend. Let people know before we move on to the next segment. I want to do that and what we spoke about earlier in the tonight.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
giveaway.
So, yes, the giveaway. So, tell us first where they can see you this weekend.
Yeah, so I live in Arizona, and there are 2 events happening tomorrow. If you're in the area, perchance, I will be at Monster Comics 10 in Tempe, Arizona at 10 a.m. tomorrow, doing a table signing event for an event called, oh boy, what the heck? Latik's gonna kill me. I forgot the name of the event, but it's a it's a comic little mini con. And then I'll be at that tomorrow. And then in the evenings, I'll be at Drawn to Comics in Glendale, Arizona from 5 to 8, doing a table event there as well, where I'll have copies of Grim Night Room and Prismatic, all my comic books, all my poetry books, all of those. You'll be able to get your hands on them. It's
Wonderful.
just really great. And just come out. If you are in the area, come out, come up, say hi. I can't wait to meet you, take a selfie and chat it up and talk sci-fi horror.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Now, the giveaway. This was completely Eric's idea, so we want to thank you so much for doing this for our viewers. But tell us what our viewers that are on right now need to do to be selected. It, of course, need to be living in the United States because of the shipping. But tell us more about the giveaway.
I mean, this is your show, Nita. I'm gonna let you choose the winner. I just thought it'd be really cool for the people that are loyal and stayed in the chat throughout the whole show to maybe, you know, drop a heart in chat or do something like that to call out and say, "Hey, I'm
Well,
here."
I was thinking,
Whatever you want to do.
maybe the first person who showed up on the chat tonight, which was Dev. Dev, would you like a copy of this wonderful prismatic, which I read is absolutely excellent? Dev, put a heart if you're still with us.
Prismatic Dev is my 32 page, I forget, comic book that came out back in July. It is a sci-fi comic book about love, loss, hope, despair, set against sort of a cosmic backdrop, but it's really a beautiful book. This is a blank cover variant of it. So what I was going to do is I was going to hand draw and color a really cool cover for you. I'm a writer, but I'm also kind of an artist, so you can get.
He's actually a very good artist. He doesn't give himself credit enough for his art.
So all you'll have to do is just reach out to me. You know, you can send me an email at my website or something, or maybe we can coordinate it afterwards. But just leave your comments in this video, and I'll find it. And you tell me what you want me to draw. You want me to draw a monster, a superhero, like whatever you want. I'll do my best to make it happen. and then I'll send this to you for free. How cool is that?
Absolutely. Actually, I can, if you don't mind, I can send Dev your email address so he can correspond with you. Is that okay? All right, Dev, I'm going to
Absolutely.
send you his email address. I know Dev now for quite a few years. We've
Well, there you go.
been
You'll
online
get
buddies for a long
really
time.
cool custom piece of art by me, and you'll get a really kick-ass comic book, if I can say so.
It is.
And I just
It
did.
is absolutely the best. Absolutely. And I'm just going to go really quickly to our last segment because there are a couple of podcasts that I do want to highlight. And it'll be really quick. All right. Now we have here hailing all frequencies. No, excuse me. Hailing frequencies open. It's a Star Trek podcast, and they do all things Star Trek. They are so much fun to watch. So if you're into Star Trek culture, Star Trek shows, movies, these guys are fantastic to watch. Now this other one is more of a YouTube channel than it is a podcast, but it really kind of my heartstrings were touched, so I have to share them. They are called Trek Through Trek. This is a father and son, a father introducing his son chronologically to Star Trek, okay, for the first time, and they're going to videotape them and put them on YouTube. I think it's they have such good chemistry in that first episode that they already have out there, and you could just see the love the dad has for Star Trek and how excited he is to share with his son. And I love the fact that his son is so amazing that he is open to watching Star Trek. And asking questions about it. And I love that. And I just had to highlight them tonight and share that with you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch someone new be introduced to Star Trek. I love that. That kind of touches my heart. It's my Trek heart. It really does get touched by that. Now, our next episode is going to be on November 1st, and it's going to be sci-fi and reality. We're going to talk about the technology inspired by science fiction, and Dev is going to be our guest. Okay, so it's going to be November 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about science fiction technology. So it's going to be so great, and I hope you guys can join us. And
I'm excited for that one.
Yes, me too. I love to see the science fiction technology come to life because the closer we are, the more sci-fi tech that we come up with, the closer we are to transporters, and I don't have to take a train anymore. I'm in New York City. I don't want to take trains anymore. That's all I have to say. I want to be transported.
And being in the LA area, I don't want to drive anymore.
Exactly, you get it. It's the same. Listen, being stuck in an LA car, driving in LA, is the same as being stuck underground on the train. They're horrible experiences. You don't want them.
I mean, we got those too, but we do not have the network like yours.
Oh gosh, no.
At least until your jeans get crossed with a fly.
That would be hilarious. But thank you both, Eric and Miranda, for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Enjoy. You guys are welcome on Sci-Fi Queens anytime. Eric, before your next book comes out, reach out to me. We will schedule you in, and we will definitely promote you, your book, and any signings that you're doing. Sci-Fi Queens got your back, brother. We got you. Always. We got your back. No worries about that. But we want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And thank you so much, guys. But we will see you November 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified when new videos come up. Thank you for watching our show.